is money.
It's nothing.
Balling. Premium or nothing.
When them or nothing.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Welcome back, everybody, to Couch Chronicles Therapist After Dark.
One more again.
Welcome back to the couch, ladies.
Yes.
It's good to have you.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's get started with some mindfulness. For today's mindfulness practice, we'll do a breathing exercise. So I ask that you get into a comfortable position.
Mm-hmm.
You can close your eyes if that feels good to you, or just take a low gaze. Noticing the positioning of your body, how it might be planted on the surface beneath you. Take a moment to notice your feet planted firmly on the ground. And make any final adjustments before coming into stillness. We'll start with a few deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you breathe in, imagine that the air is filled with peace and calm. Allow it to fill your entire body. And as you breathe out, imagine the air leaving any stress and tension. You can say in your mind, I breathe in, peace and calm. I breathe out, stress and tension. Do that for 5 breaths on your own count. Breathe in, peace and calm. And breathe out, stress and tension. When you get to your final breath, take a moment to notice your body. Notice any sensations or urges that might be present. Allow any thoughts to drift away as we begin to return the space with each other. Stretch a bit if you need to. Taking one last deep intentional breath here at the end before gently fluttering the eyes open. Okay. Quick breathing practice. What did you all notice about yourselves and about your body during the practice?
I noticed a little bit of tension right here. And I noticed for a brief moment me trying to attach some type of meaning or cause and effect, I think, to that, oh, my bun is tight or something of that nature. But it was very kind of quick with the thought coming and going. I noticed that there was certain questions in between the directives when there was like a space of silence of like me asking, did I miss something? Was I supposed to do something that I didn't necessarily hear? I noticed some chanting of the like phrases, breathing peace, release tension, like that type of thing. And then some physical sensations of like my muscles being active and moving. And that's pretty much it. Some thoughts, I would say, about like what I'm going to do next or like later on today. But again, not too much preoccupation where I got like carried away and stuck there.
Yeah. So it sounds like your mind offered you some things, but it was fleeting for the most part. It didn't stay, or you weren't necessarily holding on to it. It sounds like you had a pretty full experience as well, with noticing some sensations, acknowledging some thoughts, and bringing yourself back to the phrase.
Yeah.
Any sensations or things that surprised you that you maybe hadn't recognized before engaging in the practice?
No surprise sensations. I think the ones that I did have, I was already kind of like have experienced them earlier, and just kind of allowed them to be, instead of like fixating, especially when there's certain sensations that I don't like find pleasant happening, but
Not wanting to hold on to them too much.
exactly.
Well, no, that
Wanted them to let go of me, actually.
Like, what about you, Jay?
I think I felt tired all of a sudden. I just felt like I wanted to.
Maybe you
I was like,
noticed that you were tired.
I noticed. I did. I noticed that I was tired as I was breathing in peace, and I was breathing out like stressed, and the directives you were giving. But I remember I was like, okay, well, make the word peace your anchor, because I feel like that's the season I've kind of been on, wanting to experience peace, wanting to stay in my peace, be in my peace. But I also felt like I felt like I was in a trance. I don't know how to explain it.
Like it felt like a what word did Stephanie use?
Yes. Well, no,
Like
which one she?
chanting.
Yes. Yeah. I just felt like I was in a trance, and I was just like with it. And I did notice some sensation like in my arms, and those type of body sensation. I just noticed it. There was no urge for me to kind of like interact with it. And then I kind of just went back, and I think the word peace just kind of kept being like a remnant. And as I was breathing out anxiety, stress, and towards the end, I think I was naming like release stress, release anxiety, that type of thing internally. But that was it. But yeah, I kind of felt tired.
Okay, so I'm hearing that you maybe noticed that you were feeling tired. Any particular sensation that brought your awareness to that?
The urge, like my eyelids couldn't, like they wanted to stay closed as if I'm
Like feeling
sleeping. Yes. And you know how your limbs just kind of, you feel your limbs just dropping?
Yeah.
Like in that state? Yeah. My limbs just felt like I'm in a bed, but I'm not in a bed. Like I just dropped. I was like, oh, hey girl, are you tired? Like what's happening?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And are these things that you noticed before getting into the practice, or were there some sensations that surprised you?
They definitely surprised me. I did not feel or notice like fatigue, tired, or wanting to sleep.
Yeah.
That type of thing until you say close your
Slowing
eyes.
down does for us. I bet you that's going to help you make some decisions.
That part. Yeah.
Thank you for
But no,
practicing.
thank you. That was really good.
My own experience, selfishly, I choose this one because it is one that I can also participate in and instruct. So I felt really grounded to the words of inhaling peace and calm and exhaling stress and tension. I did have some thoughts about like, did I provide enough instruction? Is this pause going to be awkward on camera? But nothing that I really held on to, just some thoughts similar to Stephanie, just kind of coming and going.
I know there's a thought that came to my mind when I was like chanting. You guys saw that TikTok video, maybe YouTube too, where she's in the room, she's like, I don't give a fuck. Release the fuck. So part of my piece was like, don't give a fuck. Release the fuck. So I remember that's what it was. Like I was like, Jay, don't give a fuck. Give less fucks.
Yeah.
So, like that type of thing. So that came to mind.
I
So
love this
like that.
practice. It's probably
for
something I
sure.
do more regularly than others.
Yeah.
Sometimes I switch up the words, but
That's a good one.
it's helpful to kind of imagine yourself being filled with the
And release everything.
and
Yeah,
imagine yourself releasing the things that you
for sure. We need a good mindfulness. We need a good grounding.
encouraging our listeners to, maybe sometimes choose your own words to receive and release when you're doing some of these practices as well.
Good deal. Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. What are we talking about today? Yes.
Something that I'm currently engaging in right now.
Say it again for the people.
We are talking about ADHD, which is a big buzzword. Really, everybody has it this day and age, but we're going to talk a little bit about it from the perspective of diagnosis, symptoms, talking about like how it can look, maybe some, I would say less familiar or less common ways in which that it can show up, especially in the Black community, especially if you're a woman, because contrary to popular belief, it's almost like they just started researching women. Like, I don't know, there's all these new
More research now.
exactly, and more literature and more knowledge about like not only women's like physical bodies, like from the medical aspect, but like psyche wise, like really doing more of a look at like how certain things show up in women, because a lot of these things in the DSM were toward men, white, and middle-aged.
Yes.
You know, middle class and middle-aged.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be talking about ADHD, which leads me to the confessional that we got.
Confession.
Right.
What do people have to say? What is the problem?
Right. See, we're doing it right now. So
Yeah.
let's get to it.
Prime examples.
Right. I am a 26-year-old Black woman who just got diagnosed with ADHD inattentive type. And I'm feeling everything. Relief? Yeah, but mostly I'm angry as hell. My whole life I was called lazy, spacey, moody, a mess. I would get punished, not supported. And due to the ignorance and the lack of resources, I know my family did their best, but sometimes their best still failed me. Now I'm realizing I've spent my entire 20s just trying to survive, masking, overcompensating, constantly on the edge of falling apart while everyone else seemed to thrive. And now what? I get a label and some coping tools and I'm supposed to feel grateful? I don't know how people call this a gift. To me, it feels like I got cheated out of peace, progress, and a fair shot. Now I'm stuck starting over at 26. Oof.
Right.
That's heavy. And I think exactly. I think there's so many women, men, but I think women, because men tend to get diagnosed with ADHD a lot younger in their lifespan versus women tend to get diagnoses in their like late 20s, early 30s. Mind you, that's a lot of time to go through life
And to struggle and try
and not knowing kind of like
what's going
why your mind and your actions show up the way that they do.
That makes sense to me though, right? Because I think that when most often boys are being diagnosed when they are presenting some sort of challenge or problem in the school space, right? When they're being disruptive. Oftentimes, young girls are kind of taught to adapt to their environment a lot sooner in life. And so that word masking that you use will sometimes show up. And by masking, we mean like presenting yourself in a way that helps you to like avoid your flaws or be more capable, right? So you maybe hear that term other places as well, right? But young girls learn how to do that a lot quicker. So sometimes ADHD will kind of slide under the radar, and like as a seasoned clinician, there are things that are kind of easy to see, but to the untrained eye, it maybe looks like she's disinterested or she's in a bad mood, and not so much related to like she's got some challenges with attention.
So what is ADHD?
Right. Attention.
We hear it, we coin it, but what is it?
Yes. So attention deficit hyperactive disorder is the full out name of ADHD, but it really talks about folks who struggle with inattention. So that's the inability to stay focused for a prolonged period of time, completing a particular task, sticking with routines or a structure. And there are 3 different kind of ways in which that ADHD can show up. So you have the inattentive type, which is really focused around like being able to keep up with routines,
Yep.
being able to organize yourself, have structure. It also, this subgroup, often they make a lot of careless mistakes.
Yep.
They tend to not finish tasks completely. So that's what that would look like. And then you have the hyperactive impulsive side. So this is for the folks who kind of have a motor in their back that never shuts off. These are the people who can talk and talk and talk and talk all day. They can run around. They have so much energy. They're very engaging. They're kind of like the life of the party, right? The person that will, is a party starter, the person that is always has the energy to be able to entertain and to uplift other people. But it also can look like somebody who can't sit still, somebody who's constantly in movement, somebody who jumps from tasks and from interest to different interests, starting a new thing, right? They have a new
Outburst.
a new hobby that they are into, right? They first, in the beginning of the year, they were into sewing. In the middle of the year, they were into doing sculpture. And now at the end of the year, you know what? I'm going to be in theater.
Yeah.
So they tend to jump around often and don't, always think about the consequences or what might happen. They just feel like I can do it. It's going to be great.
It's
Everything's going to be awesome.
What about the executive functioning piece?
Yes.
The decision making.
Because ADHD is a spectrum that affects the prefrontal cortex, right? This part of our brain that has to do with planning, that has to do with execution, that has to do with organization. ADHD heavily impacts this part of the brain. So when we're looking at the ability to make decisions, that is heavily impacted, especially when we look at the inattention part of the ADHD, right? So if I have 3 options on the table, that's 3 too many for an ADHD.
Yep.
Because now my mind literally has to
If I choose
contemplate
this,
every single
go one of
scenario,
them. Yeah.
every single thing. And then to the point where all this overload and activation shuts me down.
Yup.
Right? If you ever have problems figuring out what you're going to eat every day, you might be struggling with this executive dysfunction. Another one would be figuring out the order to complete tasks.
Yeah.
Right? How to should I do my laundry first?
Yeah.
Should I, read first? Or should I take a shower? Or should I do these things? So if you ever have challenges with having to figure out what order something will go, that might be part of the inattention.
How about, doing 3 things at the same time?
Hyperactive, impulsive side there, right? That's I can brush my teeth while I'm on the phone, while I'm also simultaneously sewing on this thing. And then, wait, I think I'm supposed to be cooking something at the same time. That's you?
She's in the room. She's in the room.
Can I ask? Do you complete all of those things?
Hell no.
Okay.
Shit.
Right. Now you're upset.
No.
And then also, I think that one that we didn't mention is the intensity and emotion, right?
Yeah.
Your prefrontal cortex also allows you to kind of gauge the severity of things. And so when you experience ADHD, oftentimes the punishment doesn't match the crime.
Yes.
It's a really big reaction. And sometimes it can be quick and you can come down from that pretty quickly. But the reaction is really big and it often can be jarring to other people are experiencing it.
Where that hyperactivity and that impulsivity type of shows up, right, is that there's a quick activation in the system, which then warrants a quick response from without really contemplating the full picture of things. Yeah. And then I said there was 3 types. The third is when you have the love
combination.
Yes.
You have both things. You have inattention and you have the hyperactivity and impulsivity. And we'll get more into what are maybe some not common things that you might see that you easily be overlooked and just this is a quirk.
Talking from the emotion piece, I remember when I was younger, and I would get in trouble, something would happen. And the word that always stick to me, which is why sometimes with that word, I learned to embrace it now, but I used to be annoyed with it. You're too sensitive. Why are you overreacting? You're too sensitive. And that is something that someone with ADHD always get labeled because they have big feelings and they have these big emotions and not really understanding the fact that they are experiencing things at a higher intensity and trying to manage it. So
Did you guys notice though that all the symptoms for the most part that we acknowledged can be seen in other like mental health disorders and other
Definitely.
challenges? So let's talk a little bit
A lot of
about
things overlap.
what makes ADHD, what is
Different.
specific to these things.
Yeah.
First, these inattention and these impulsivity and hyperactivity behaviors actually affect your day to day.
Yep.
Right.
It
Yep.
shows up at home.
Yep.
It shows up at work. It
Yep.
shows up with your ability to kind of maintain schedules with friends and different things.
I think
And
one of the qualifying criteria is that it shows up in 2 or more
More
places in your
places.
life, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we wouldn't necessarily say that someone that can't pay attention only in school
has
experiences
ADHD.
That might be
Exactly.
something else. It requires a little bit more exploration.
You usually get mixed up with which what we're going to talk about later with like generalized anxiety disorder and autism.
exactly.
Yes, and
Especially now.
how oftentimes people are maybe misdiagnosed with generalized anxiety, and then we come to find out that it's probably more so ADHD. Sometimes they can coexist as well, right? Like think about the experience of like not being able to complete a task. It really creates a lot of
Anxiety around it.
There can be a little bit of
Overlap.
both or overlap.
Yeah. One of the things that you want to look at, not only as if you are a practicing clinician, but also for those that are untrained, you want to look at how early you started to notice these things that affected your day to day. So one of the things that I was looking at is that symptoms of ADHD usually present before the age of 12.
Yep.
So you'll start to see like kids, like first, the inability to keep the room clean. That's something that you probably would see
It's
from
common.
most kids. But there's this very specific, specificity behind it, right? It's like you have to give clear instructions because if you don't give a kid just clean your room. They'll clean it to their limits of what their understanding of what that is. So there often needs to be a lot more coaching, a lot more simplifying, a lot more
Patience.
Yes, patience. That's
As a
regardless if
parent.
your kid has ADHD or not. You should be patient. But,
Yes.
but yes, even more
Extra.
patience.
Yeah.
You'll see it with the kid who tends to have like meltdowns, but it's but they're quick to also recover, right? Like they will maybe feel some type of way because they're not getting a math problem well. Like that's where you'll see that frustration around like, this is hard. I don't want to do it. I don't want to read.
Yeah.
That's also pretty big. When kids have problems with reading, it's usually either they have some type of learning disability or they have the ADHD.
So let me ask you guys something. Why do you think, and we hear it a lot, it's becoming more prevalent to the reader? Like now, you hear a lot about adult ADHD. Why do you think it's like becoming so prevalent where now and people are it's not even a shame, but have this belief like, well, probably TikTok and Instagram tell them that. But like
more access, right?
Yeah.
People just generally have more access to information about it and more language that is palatable, right? So there's just more language around it. When we were growing up, ADHD was like a hot thing. So I would say like probably between like 97 and 2000, hella people were getting diagnosed with ADHD. And I think some of that was coming from like, this is the new hot thing, but also like research. Like we are needing to do research. We're needing to understand more of these behaviors that are showing up in kids. Also the pharmaceuticals, right? Like Ritalin was a really popular thing. So in order for, I mean, I hate to say it, but in order for like pharmaceuticals to survive, somebody's got to have the disorder. So I think that perhaps contributed to a lot of people being misdiagnosed or like that being the buzzword. And I think that kind of led to some of my own experience with being overlooked with ADHD. I think I was tested probably in like the second or third grade. I was a very rambunctious kid. I often had outbursts. I often had very, very big emotions. And I think the thing that prompted my mom to get me tested was we had like comp exams like in third grade where we had to do like our comprehensive exams. And for 3 hours of the test, I drew holes in my paper. like erased holes, drew holes. My teacher kept coming over to remind me to like answer the questions, take the time, write slowly. So then my mom convinced the teacher to let me take it again. And I did the same thing.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay. I mean, and I'm Black, so like
I was about to say,
much look like you're gonna get your ass beat at school.
Yes, yeah,
and like you know what you're doing. And
yeah.
I think that like it happening again after the consequence was introduced, I think that maybe prompted my mom to say like, well, there's something else. So I recall getting tested, but there was a big push for like people to just take medication.
Yes.
And my mom being a teacher, she wasn't for it. So it was kind of just like, I'm not going to give you medication, but nobody is going to give a fuck about you having a challenge with your brain. You need to tighten up. So then that caused my household life to be extremely rigid.
Yeah.
There was like a lot of rigidness around what I ate.
Yeah.
There was a timer for me to do my homework.
Yeah.
There was one day a week that I could watch TV.
Yeah.
There was so much structure. So I think that it kind of helped me to like cope and maybe even encourage some unmasking. Like, this is how I'm supposed to act when I'm in these spaces. But yeah, I would say that my experience was a little bit different than the reader because I found out earlier and like shifted my life around that. But I think when I got to grad school, I'm like, I wish I was on fucking medication.
Right. No, but mine was a little bit different. So I was still younger, but I think I might have shared this already on the podcast, was when I came here when I was like 8. I came here as 8. So maybe around 9, they put me in school, but I had a hard time like staying focused because back home, I was in a school that was very active. I wasn't sitting for 8 hours. And I remember I wasn't doing well. I had struggles staying focused and I kept moving. I kept being disruptive. Just like all these things were happening. And I remember them talking to my mom, about like, hey, do you want to get her tested? Because I was new here, but there was a language thing like ADHD, and my mother, like I always say, she was just like, no, she's fine, whatever. They didn't. But then it kept, she was like, put her in the front and so forth and so on. Then she'll be fine. She was like, and this, to your point, when you go to school, you need to stop doing this. You need to pay attention. Yeah. You need to Don't have them call me. There's nothing wrong with you. Do you know what they're going to do? Like, I was like, okay. So I remember going to your point, like, but I had a hard time. And then, so it became to, okay, something is not okay here. And then I remember, I can't recall whether I got tested or not, but I did recall, and I talked to my mom about this, we called them asking, did she want to put me on medication, Ritalin? She's like, I'm not putting my child on no damn medication. Like, my mother literally was like, it's a no.
People that I know that got on Ritalin, it changed their whole personality.
Yeah.
Like, they straight up went from like super big energy, jovial kid to like mute.
Yeah, see? But there was that was the thing with Ritalin too. So I didn't, but so this is where you and I connected, where home, everything became structured. When I had to take tests, I had to be in a separate room. And the kids, I had like, because of the English portion too, I also had like a one-on-one like learning type thing going on. So there was accommodations that was put in place for me. Outside of the medication. Yeah. So I would say my diagnosis came around that age.
My experience completely different.
Exactly.
No, mine is probably way more similar to
the reader.
The reader. So another aspect to think about is there's usually a genetic component.
Right.
There's a very short line of difference between a parent, someone in the
girl, I think our whole family is ADHD. Shit, my mother. Thank you. My mother, our whole family. My sister is ADHD as fuck. Like, yeah.
So growing up, it wasn't me that was the focus of stuff, because like you had said, the differences between boys and girls is that boys often show up behaviorally in ways that are louder,
more aggressive,
and more calls from the school, because this person is either getting into the fights, roaming around in school, just like literally being loud and making noises. Girls, tend to be socially conditioned to be agreeable, to be quiet, to be, kind. And if they aren't, they are ostracized and like pointed out and then almost having to. So in my household, I'm the oldest. So there's already this like, you need to show up in a particular way, which I've talked about multiple times here.
Yeah.
But my brother is what I would say falls underneath a combined type, but I would say he's probably more leaning toward the hyperactivity side. And so with school for him, he's the one that is running around in class. My dad had to go to class. And this is when we're talking about like elementary school. So well before he's turned 12, has to go into class and sit in class because he can't sit still. He's acting up. He's doing all of these like other things. My parents never had to come to my class because I would be doing what I was supposed to be doing or sitting and, all of that stuff. And so he would constantly, a lot of the behavioral, accommodations were to him, but it wasn't like, oh, he has to sit in the front of the class or, oh, we're at home. You can't watch TV and all these other things. It was like at school, they would attempt to try to like assist him by like giving him other things or having my parents like come to the school. Like that's pretty much was the behavioral like
and sometimes that
like,
is very like punishment, discipline.
1000%. And so that was the focus, is that like, oh, your brother, he has challenges with sitting still. He has challenges with his handwriting. He has challenges with, like, he doesn't like to read. Like, that's like his whole thing. He's more of the play. And they'll often use the word, oh, you're the class clown. That is the term they will usually use for somebody who has ADHD that's diagnosed, is, oh, you're the joker of the situation. So we fast forward into like past adulthood, and I'm like noticing certain things that have always been there, but it wasn't until my sister got diagnosed around the same age as this person that like, oh, you have ADHD. Yeah. Right? It's the reading for me. I like to read. I love to read, but I had to slow myself down because if I'm not paying attention, I'll read the same line.
Same line.
Yeah, over and over.
It's this, and to the point where I'll either read it out loud in order to focus me, or I have to use my hand to trace it. Right?
And thinking about the kids are mean as fuck. So just imagine the idea of like, I'm already anxious about reading out loud. Then I'm trying to trace it with my finger.
Yeah.
I got bullied for that. It was
like shame that usually comes
but that's
with ADHD.
Folks with ADHD.
So it's the reading part. I was always in honors classes, the accelerated classes. So
that
it's like
GT to pipeline to ADHD.
Yes, because they give you something. They need you to have something to do.
Stimulating.
So a lot of my progress reports and report cards would say Stephanie is great in school, but she talks too much. She's always talking. She's always engaging with her peers. She's always like moving around. In high school, I now remember I would, during transitions from classes, I would go to my class. I would get there early to then drop my bag off and walk around to school. Literally to talk to people, engage with folks.
They were in the hallway.
Mind you, because I was a good student. I was,
you went under
nobody really would question, but I would literally the first 15 minutes
you went under
class, I'm just walking around, just like pacing or doing stuff, where I would leave out of class to hang out with my friends during the breaks and stuff. So that's another thing, just not being able to sit down. And then it was writing papers. Writing papers were like, I would rather
procrastinate.
Just how to organize it as well.
Because my mind is, again, not knowing. It's a multiple step thing. First, you got to sit down and figure out what the idea is. Then you got to make an outline. I fucking hated outlines, bro. I'm like, I would rather let's just go to write the paper. You're talking about rough draft, second draft, third draft.
All those one. Procrastination is huge for an ADHD. I lived off of a high. Yeah. Every paper, every study, every test was last minute.
24 to 48 hours.
And then you get a high because you perform well.
My dissertation ended up being like 42 pages long, and I wrote that shit in a week.
Yes.
Which is insane because the class is set up.
Yeah.
So you turn in bit by bit, one at a time.
Same. Yeah.
And I couldn't, and mind you, and I could not keep up with things like that because my brain would be like, oh, this is not due.
It's not ready. I need the fire.
My mind is not correlating that like, oh, this needs to get done right
Yeah.
now. So it would be the pushing, it would be, and then my mind doing multiple tasks at once. Talk about not knowing what order to do stuff. I'm writing the paper and editing at the same time and proofing. And so it's making the process longer, more like literally excruciating
And
to me
higher
that I don't
stakes.
want to do. Exactly.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. So for me, it was very hard for me to be able to admit that I had ADHD and that it was, as I got older, getting to the point where it was impacting me, because for most of my life, I had been able to like get over it.
Yeah.
I've been able to excel. I've been known as
Yeah.
this person who's smart. So if you're known as this person who is excelling, who is academically sound,
Yeah.
but there's this thing like, oh, well, maybe your brain doesn't work. Now it's like, wait, that's not, I can get through it. Like I can figure out my way.
And how long you think you pushed yourself until you actually were like, okay, I need to figure this out?
I'm sure there was some inklings of it, probably like post 30, my brain shifted. Like,
Yeah.
it just,
Some
I don't know
shit
if it was
changed.
COVID. I don't know what it was, but definitely
Yeah.
30, my brain shifted, and the ways in which that I got
I wonder
access.
if your frontal cortex was like fully developed.
That
I do
part.
know that it takes longer to
It takes
Yeah.
longer
for
for
us to
people
develop.
with
Yeah.
ADHD to
Maybe.
maybe have that.
You
Yeah.
might be on. And
Most
then
people
also,
are like 25, 27 or a neurotypical brain, but people that experience some sort of neurodivergence, which can be ADHD as well, will kind of have a later full development of that.
you taught me something there though, because I didn't know, because I do know that when
But I think I recently just read that maybe sometime last
little
year.
while ago.
Yeah.
because I just noticed that like the ways in which that I would use my brain, like how quickly, because we talk about like the speed that
Of it,
somebody
yep.
with ADHD's brain works. Like when you get a handle on that joint,
Yep.
you get a rein on that
That's
joint,
it.
you feel like
That's it.
invincible because your mind
Thank you.
processes and sees
Thank
things.
you.
And then all of a sudden it's like I hit a wall and I was like,
What's
why?
happening?
I'm not grasping. The word is there, but I can't take it out of the air bubble that is
That is in.
into space. So it
Yep.
wasn't until then that I started noticing things, but then also relationships.
That
My
part.
partners are saying things like, your space isn't always that, put together. Do are you, would you like me to help you with this? Or like, oh, like there's dishes still in your sink, or you, blah, blah, blah. And so those things also used to like annoy me. Because it's like, oh, now you're judging me, you're putting down my character, you're
That
saying
shame
that I'm
The shame come back.
Shame, you're saying that I'm like, no one ever called me dirty, but it almost felt
Felt like
you're
that's what
saying
they
that
were
I'm a
saying,
dirty
yeah.
person. No, it's just my brain did not
That part.
give a fuck about dishes or doing the laundry or all this other stuff.
Thank
or
you.
it was like, oh, this thing that takes multiple steps.
But that's the priority part, right? We tend to prioritize like certain things that are easy to like complete compared to, okay, this is going to take
Complex tasks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
word.
And so one thing that the Confessional talked about too is just the feelings that come up around getting a late diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost and specifically being angry, right?
Yeah.
And being angry about the fact that she perhaps missed out on resources and understanding
Yeah.
and was made to feel like you are a problem versus like you're having an experience. So I think that one thing that is really helpful for people who, whether they get a diagnosis at a young age or in later stages in their life, is the acceptance piece, right? Being able to accept that like, this is something that is chronic. It's not just like, I've got a cold and it's going to go away if I do these things, right? It's something that impacts your brain over time and is just more so like, I think differently. I operate differently. Not even necessarily something that needs to be fixed, which is how we kind of get into the masking and perfectionism and stuff.
One thing I also want to tell the readers, the fact that there's an anger and frustration that went with her parents.
Yeah.
And I want to say she said she was African American, right? Yeah. So in our community, I want her to, you have to work on releasing that, because when you know better, you actually do better. Because the lack of education or psychoeducation that goes into ADHD, or even being weaponized, right? Even being weaponized with a diagnosis and a labeling is something that we stay away from. And remember, we are taught like to I think the point that she was making, to work 10 times harder, push harder, or even that narrative when you would daydream. I see, my sister was someone who liked daydream a lot, right? But then being called like you being lazy. You know what I mean?
No, they call you spacey.
Oh, spacing. You spacing. Yes. So part of that is also acknowledging the fact that I think as a community, we need to have a healing around the fact that, yes, colonize, label us, use us, and they still do to some capacity. And at the same time, how can we not deny ourselves in understanding what is happening to us without feeling, with the right proper doctor, somebody you trust, and without feeling like, oh, you just want to stamp something on
I know
me,
that's for sure.
or you
That's
want
what it
to
was for
have.
me.
Yeah, so I think there's a sense of forgiveness and understanding that has to happen with her parents around releasing all of that, but also their own shame. We've been talking about shame of caring, because for the longest time I felt like something was wrong with me.
Yeah.
Like I had issue and things like that, and acknowledging like you know, it's not a you thing, but also like looking at what do I also need to, I know for me it's also because mine was managed because of the skills and things that was put in place. Now in my 40s, it's like it's a struggle.
Have to get back to
it's a struggle.
Yeah.
And I realized I had to do that. And I recently talked to my doctor about getting on medication and started, because I was struggling about just, I would stay and try to complete a fucking clinical note. One fucking note took like an hour. You like, why? It's staring at that shit and don't even want to do it. So I think it's also like me needing to, having to understand, like, no matter what age you are, it's not something you heal from, but to your point, there's a sense of managing consistency that has to happen.
That's the part.
Thank
It
you.
was the
Yes.
adapting piece, because this
Thank
is a disorder, a diagnosis that is ever changing with
Yes.
you.
Yes.
That's the part that's like, oh, look, I mastered it in my 20s. Then you turn 30.
In this way, or in this particular environment.
Yeah.
I mastered it when I was single. Now I'm in a relationship.
I'll give an example of that too, right? Like, I think that when there is like particular parameters around things, it's much easier for a person with ADHD to engage, right?
Yeah.
So I find myself being very rigid at work because there's a specific job to do.
Yeah.
There's a specific task. There's a specific expectation. And so I do well at that.
Yep.
Perform in that space. But if it's more like, if I have more like a loose expectations or we're not really sure what it is, it's really hard for me to prioritize, to organize my tasks, to like get things done. And that definitely showed up for me like in grad school, some of my courses being self-paced. I'm definitely not a girlie that can do online school.
Hell no.
I need in that classroom.
Thank
I need
you.
somebody to hold me accountable. I need to be able to look at like, these are my assignments, this is what I need to do, and organize myself in that way. I do not have the discipline to like do it on my own. As I'm like more in a space now where I manage my own schedule, I have definitely noticed that I quite frequently overbook myself. And I do believe that now that is
part of the symptomology.
ADHD trait.
Part of that symptomology,
I think like a skewed idea of like what time is and that correlates to what my capacity is.
Please talk more about that.
The time blindness. So the term that you'll probably see on TikTok is time blindness. And that can perhaps happen in a couple of different ways. So my example is more so like not knowing how to gauge the amount of time that it takes for a particular task. And when you are feeling that like you said earlier, like when you got it going or like I've got it organized, you do feel invincible, right? So you feel like I can do all this shit. Now I fucking booked, I booked 8 sessions.
Well, we know, we're notorious for that.
Because
super
the amount of times that Tyler will
and I make my own damn schedule.
Honestly, I've finished my last client at 8 p.m. every single day. I'm not looking at, mind you, our ADHD works different.
Yes.
One thing about me.
Yeah, but you different. Tyler and I are the same in that. I will have back to back until straight through.
Really realizing until like something. It has to be like a physical thing that kind of brings me back into it. So oftentimes that'll also impact my eating.
Yes.
Like not being able to gauge how much time that it'll take or how much time I need to designate to eating or how much time it'll take me to figure out what I want to eat.
Yeah.
The decision making around what I want to eat.
Yes.
I kind of realize now that maybe kind of led to some of my disordered eating as well, just like restricting because it was taking too much mental capacity for me to think about what I wanted to eat.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
People forget that ADHD is kind of being reconfigured to be more of like a dopamine seeking thing versus an attention thing. Because if food and eating doesn't fire dopamine in your brain, that's not going to be something that's going to take a lot of brain power. To me, though, food be light. This motherfucker. That is one thing that I will not forget to do unless I am in the burnout phase, and which is what you're referring to, is that ADHD runs on a cycle. Yeah, this comes from one of my supervisees, one of my colleagues. Shout out to you, girl. But she talked about the burnout cycle that comes with ADHD, where you have that hyperactive, where you are literally firing 150%. You're doing all the things, every single thing on your task. You're outputting so much energy. But you do that, and then on the flip side, you burnt out all your reserves. So I literally have no energy to do anything. And the recoil of that is so like visceral and so like sharp, where you go from all of it. You could be over performing for like 3 weeks. Then the last week of the month, which probably for us is usually the most pivotal part. That's when billing and all this other stuff is. You have nothing to give, and then everything feels like it's right now. It's crumbling all at the same time. So you talked about the time blindness looking like either A, not knowing how much time something will take. I think this is a newer term that is maybe being just like renamed in TikTok, but they called it time optimism. And I thought that was so key. Where you feel like
I have more time than you do.
Exactly. You can do more things in a lot of time. Mind you, that happened to me this morning. I was literally
happens to us every time we come to
I
we lie to ourselves.
Because most folks, at least for me,
we work well when we started doing at this house.
Yes, we did. We did a lot better. Yes, that definitely helped you for a lot.
Yes.
But like, for example, I was up at like 6:45. I did not leave my bed until 8:30 because, again, that time blindness. I didn't realize being on my phone or me watching TV was going to take me to then all of a sudden I'm looking at the clock. Oh, shit. It's
and now you're rushing.
I'm like, I can get done in an hour. I can do my makeup. I can shower. I can figure out what I'm going to wear. I'm going to do my hair. All that.
Yes.
Mind will do that. It's like, I can do this. And then I'm looking at the time.
We call it Delulu.
Yes. Right? But it's time Delulu, I guess.
Yes.
That's just one of the things.
No, that happened to me. That happens.
My second one is the paralysis that will come sometimes when it's the opposite. I'm not optimistic. I'm like contemplating in my mind how many hours I have between tasks. Like I wake up during my work week and I'll be like, okay, I woke up at 7:00. My first client is at 10:30. Do I have enough time to go to the gym? And
that happens to me.
That happens to, but I'll be telling myself, I don't have enough time.
This is the way that it happens for me as well, right? Like, because I make my own schedule, I have gotten much better at carving out a block of time for myself, but I won't leave the house. I have like a lot of like, I can't go to lunch somewhere. I can't meet anybody for lunch and get back on time. I can't go
so you
for
just
a
stay,
walk.
you just stay
so
like,
I don't see the light of day for
and a lot of folks, a lot of my clients have talked about that. It's like, I have a doctor's appointment at 3:00. I don't leave the house the whole day. That thing has happened.
You know, something, I'm married to my counterpart is also ADHD chair. So one thing that's showing up, and we talking about this, forgetting. I be forgetting shit like more. I could be taught, and part of that could be with aging. You know, I'm not trying to tell myself, but I do think that's part of like the symptomology that kind of came back for me around like, I could say, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that, and be completely forgetting what I had to do.
Right now,
or it is not. It does not.
If it's
literally,
down and it's not in my face,
or not a reminder.
Yes.
Somewhere that's
exactly. So I think what's been getting me a lot is the forgetting thing. Like, you know, I have clients like, I need this letter. I was like, okay, I'll get to it right away, and then I'll jump into a session. Then completely forgot that I have to do it. fuck, and then you try to do it
Shit right now.
exactly.
Like, let me send this. I'm straight up with my clients.
Yeah.
Let me write this shit down and send it to you
Thank
right now
you.
because I'm a human being.
Yeah.
That-
Or
I literally- I would-
or what I've been getting from, my loved ones, including y'all, is that no, you never told me that. I be thinking I be telling somebody something, and then I be forgetting to tell. No, and in my brain, I feel like, oh, we had this
And you be
conversation,
hurt.
and
I
I
up in my relationship, right?
Thank
because
you.
I also have a partner who experiences ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of had to have a come to Jesus moment with each other because we both sometimes forget things and get triggered by like, you didn't say that or I didn't say that, right?
Yeah.
We have talked, we had to
Same.
to a safe word of like, I don't remember that versus
Yes.
you didn't say it.
I don't recall.
Right. I
Yes.
don't recall that
Yes.
conversation versus you didn't say it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should try to teach my partner that. Be like, I don't recall. Of course you don't. You don't recall anything that you need to recall.
But
I get judgment. You know,
That wasn't a tag.
I get judgment.
Baby, it would be lost. I don't know where the wallet is. I
Yes.
don't know where the phone is. The phone is never charged.
Oh, that's my
the
husband.
ID is
He
lost.
he can tell you where his wallet is. He'll be just
That's what for me, I just put things in the same place.
Yeah.
That was my way.
But
to
that's your
communicate.
adaptation,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
So I hyper, jacked the whole situation.
Yeah.
That my keys are always in the same place.
Yeah.
And if it's not in the same place, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I genuinely do not know.
Or where could it
for sure. Yeah.
So there is the time challenges. There is the decision
forgetting.
fatigue. What are you guys' thoughts about the emotional dysregulation?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about like how that has kind of shown up for you guys.
So
Go ahead.
I was going to say that the part that Stephanie talked about earlier, right? Your prefrontal cortex.
Yes.
That is also your regulation space.
Yes.
The thing that helps you to like gauge
Yep.
like the intensity
Emotions,
of
feelings, yeah.
how we need to respond to this situation. So when you experience ADHD, that can sometimes be a bit faulty. So the crime doesn't match the punishment. So that might look like I have very big emotions about something. I'm very reactive. It can also look like I'm very like attached to this person.
Yeah.
Romantically, it can look like I think I have really big, intense feelings of like love and attachment to this person. When it's really more so like this. Or
Yeah.
if the person makes one mistake
And
you feel really outraged, extremely distrustful,
Yeah.
extremely hateful.
Hold on to arguments,
Yeah.
like
You're
struggling
ready
and
to
letting
argue.
them go.
Now, one thing about it,
because you become better.
I'm ready for an argument.
Yes.
And my low key
Yes.
kind of enjoy it.
And I got
because
the-
Yes.
that dopamine you be getting
Like high. It's a high.
Like,
It's a high.
Not stop until I win.
Yeah. Well, I feel like as I got older, that has shifted. The argument, I would don't get me wrong.
That's
Right.
The urge comes
Try
up.
me if you want to.
lion and you be
Cause it be coming out. But I think to the point around like, I have a hard time letting things go. I used to have a hard time letting things go. I've gotten so much better, but like if you wrong me, I'm going to like, or if I'm very upset, my de-escalation could take 2 days to really like,
and I'm also not
feel
forgiving
like,
for other
I think
people.
my partner
Like,
Yes.
other
like that
people
shit.
have been wronged.
Yes.
Like people who are close to me, I don't even
Not
want
fucking-
yeah. But see, that's my husband. My husband's like, look, if you hurt anybody he loves and he knows about it, he hold on to shit. He ain't fucking with you. Yeah, he ain't fucking with you. He like, okay, well, that's about done.
Intensely sometimes experiencing other people's emotions as well.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people will look at that as like being an empath,
Yeah.
but you could also perhaps have ADHD and
Yeah.
just get very attached.
No, that's a good point to make.
Another symptom that I think that is not talked about frequently is this strong sense of justice and fairness.
Yes.
That will come.
Yes.
I will put
yes.
that. Are you sure that's not autism? I'm just gonna say that. Were you sure?
No.
That's the thing, right? Because I
It's
think
a-
that
it's- it
very
could
many
be
things can
mixed with
overlap,
it.
right? And I
Yes.
think that when we think about the umbrella of neurodivergence,
Yeah.
that could be BPD, that
Yes.
could be OCD, that could be autism spectrum
Yeah.
disorder, that could also be ADHD,
Right.
So there is like a cluster of symptoms that will overlap in all of those things. And we need
But
to kind
what
of
makes
look
it
at,
different?
Like, what are the other things that are
Exactly.
showing up
And that's why I
alongside
said
that?
no to that. Yeah. But I think it's
So
to your point.
It's not isolated.
It's
I
not-
wouldn't say that person has ADHD if it's isolated.
Yeah.
Like this
This
is
is
the
what-
only behavior that is showing up. But
Right.
it's also paired with the inattentiveness, with the challenges with decision making, then perhaps that's something to explore a little bit.
Yeah.
Sleep. is a
Don't need it.
Yes.
or you take a little
Too
too
much
much
of
of
it.
it. Like it really depends.
Too much of it.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit for you guys then. How does sleep get impacted for y'all?
I don't.
Yeah.
I literally have. I mean, I do need it physically,
Yes.
but in my mind, I was like conditioned to believe that like sleep is taking up space for me being able to do right. So I can very much be good off of like 4 hours and be up for the day and keep going kicking.
You know, it's crazy because my daughter calls it the zoomies.
Yep.
I will be really tired. And the zoomies, like, you know how dogs go like,
when
the
they're
zoomie.
tired.
When they're tired. Yes, kids too. So I would be extremely tired. I mean, I'll be on that couch where I'll be like, babe, I'm tired. I will get upstairs, bitch, a fucking like burst of energy. Girl, I'm cleaning shit. I'm reading a book. I'm writing. I'm watching something. I'm taking me talking. But before I look, it's fucking 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is happening?
Get up, ass that.
And you gotta get, and then and you still get up, but it's like, then you get that extreme fatigue. So for me, it happened in that sense, where even if I close my eyes to towers from where you say you don't need it, girl, I could operate off a 10-minute close my eyes nap and finish the rest of my day.
Yep.
And be like on a high.
Yeah.
But it's strange. And I think sometimes a little bit of insomnia tends to happen.
It's not good for your body either.
Yes. So there's the
There's no
unhealthy
reason for your
part.
body to recharge.
That's where like you feel like you cannot sleep because there is a miswiring of the brain
Right.
Yes.
at that moment.
Or feeling like I'm gonna miss. When I was younger, like I was gonna miss out on some shit.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing I struggled with sleep, where I was like, I'm gonna miss out if I don't go. And my mother used to trick me and be like, you know, the faster you sleep, when you get up, the morning's gonna come early. So then I used to hold on to like, okay, just sleep so you can do it. Exactly. So she was smart with that. So I give her,
that was a really good trick.
That hurry up and get to is like a very common feeling or song.
Okay, yeah. And so for me, before talking about sleep, and then we'll talk about that, is like mine is that like I could usually, when I was younger, going to sleep wasn't really like an issue. Like I liked that was like a problem for me. What was an issue was the morning times and feeling groggy.
Yeah.
Or not feeling like I want to get out of the bed. Like I would rather, like I told you guys from today, I woke up at 6 and didn't physically get out of my bed until 8:30. And that happens often with me, where I'll be up early, but the motivation, the desire to actually, or even the urgency to move out of my bed. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I don't have that much time. Now I have to hurry up to get to work, to school, to whatever, to what have you. And then the other thing that you had said, Tyler, about,
the go, go, go.
The go, go, go. Yes. If you're someone who has ADHD, have you ever noticed that, like, if you're with someone else, like, for example, you're going to the grocery store and you have your thing that you want to do, you want to hurry up and get that thing done and don't want to linger longer than.
To be honest, I think that also is a part of some of like the people pleasing that can sometimes, or like the performance that can come from, or like just like trying to avoid that feeling of inadequacy, like not wanting to be a burden to other people or to like disrupt other people's time.
Interesting.
So I do find that like when I'm paired with someone else in doing a task, I do get it done quicker, but it's not necessarily because I'm more focused. I'm just more anxious
you're
about
talking about like body doubling, like
not even like just talking about like how you said, like if we're at the store, you're trying to hurry up and get your task done. I'm constantly thinking about how is this impacting the other person.
I see.
Yeah,
mine was just like, mostly along the lines of like, after you were talking about it, it came clear in my mind. If I'm at a place and there's nothing going on or nothing that is of exciting or whatever, I'm ready to like go on to something else.
Yeah.
Like,
the boredom.
My partner struggles with that a lot. And she talks about it like she's like, I'm just so impatient. Like even when we go places, like especially if it's a place that like we've built a lot of anticipation around, like it'll be a lot of like, I want to hurry up and get there. But then also like, I want it to hurry up and be over, and I want to hurry up and get back to the house. Get back to the safe space. Like just hurry up.
Something, right? A lot of quickness behind that. And then also you had said something along the lines of See, look at that. ADHD green is just talking about it. It's gone out of my mind already.
Being with another person?
Yeah, well, being with another person, I find that like certain things that they will do will overstimulate me. So somebody who I think has ADHD, you have sensory things. So when I did a training once and they talked about like hypo versus hyper.
Yeah.
So hypo meaning like something is like maybe like minimal.
Take
or
it
like
away,
low.
reduce.
Yes, reduce. And the hyper is like a lot of it super intense.
Yeah.
So for me, sound, I like loud sounds. So I would be the kind of kid that in the morning, turn the music
Rock it
on,
up.
blasting. I'm
Rock
happy
it.
getting ready because that helps me get.
Girl, you still like that now, girl.
I'm definitely still
girl,
like
you
that
still
now.
like that now.
To the point, like my sister, who's a bit opposite of me when it comes to that, she's hyper.
Yes.
Or excuse me, she's hypo
Apo,
to the
so she-
to the sound.
The sound is
So she's,
sensitivity.
like, looking
That's
at
my
me
nephew.
like,
He did too loud. Yeah.
you're putting the music on right now. All
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yes, let's go. Yeah.
Then also touch. I'm hyper. I don't like certain things.
Sensory.
I don't like my hands to be
Touchy.
wet. I don't like my feet to be. I don't like that.
You
So
are
I
super
will-
sensory, yo. It takes off.
When it
Yeah.
comes to certain things. I don't like to see.
Yeah.
Sight of certain things will like have me icky. Hair on the walls, the wetness, like that shit.
Yeah.
That sensory piece is also one that overlaps with autism.
Yeah.
Oftentimes people will like misdiagnose or just misunderstand that experience altogether. I think that the way that it shows up for me with having ADHD is that if I am like hyper focused on something, then I get really agitated with things that are outside of that.
Yes.
Right? So an example. I threw a birthday party for my younger cousin at my apartment, and I had a very structured way around like how I wanted to do things. I'm a very organized person as a way to adapt to my ADHD. So I've got a list of things that we need. I've assigned people to do their tasks. Now I'm doing my task, and the people that I assigned to do their task are not doing their task. So as I'm doing the things that I'm doing, I'm trying to pay attention to what I'm doing. And I'll give the prime example. So one of the tasks was cooking some food on the grill. I was doing something else and I asked my mom to make the veggie burgers on the grill. She's also in denial about having HD, but she's with the baby, my nephew running behind him, but also making the burgers. And the burgers got burnt, and I thought I wanted to fucking flip. I wanted to cancel the party.
Yeah. No, but that's Sophie.
I don't have any fucking
but that's
do anything.
Yeah, but that's Sophie, my child. Like she gets extreme.
So then
my
family looks at me like, "Oh God, here she goes again. She's nasty." She's like, "Why are you so upset?" And I'm like,
"You burnt my fucking burger."
And these burgers are like $20
It's like I've been, mind you, it's me getting mad, and it's not even me in the experience. Because I've been there before. I'm the one that's doing all this planning. I've hyperfixated, and you dare
do what you said you were gonna do. Like, so that drove me crazy.
So you and Sophie will relate on that, but mine is the obsessed. I get obsessed and fixated with stuff. Like I would. Like if I like something, I am going beyond, above, whatever. Even down to if I like a pair of shoes, I'm getting every fucking color. That obsessive.
And that's my mom's
favorite. Like that's what shows up for me. Because that's what I'll be like, how many pair of Jordans we need? Any other one that kind of look different with a different pattern. That's how many we need. One thing I wanted to say, because I know in one of our episodes, we talked about anxious attachment. Imagine someone with ADHD. I could imagine it because I experienced it
myself.
Right? You anxious attachment and you got ADHD.
Yeah. Because I think that hyperfixation can also happen with people, right? Like being fixated with like the feeling that you get with being attached to a person or like being cared for in some way can really kind of have you holding on. And you hear that with anxious attachment, you really are like holding on to that for dear life.
Exactly.
For sure.
It's a good deal.
One of the more shameful symptoms at the moment of transparency, one of the symptoms that brings a lot of shame to me is like the financial piece.
Yeah. I used to, but
spending challenges or just like the organizing.
I'm with you,
money,
sis.
Like being able to save has been like
a struggle.
Such a struggle for me. And I think that I only in the past couple of years have I really been able to like put the pieces together around like, okay, perhaps no budgeting in the, like there's no budgeting that's going to be able to like help me manage this particular thing. Cause like I've got a budget, I got separate bank accounts and the money be running a hole in my pocket. So I really had to kind of sit and like, what is this? Why can't you?
No, I struggle with the same thing. And I think it wasn't until I carried the shame, but I think it was until I got married where, you know, Kelvin, like he's good with money. He's way better than money than I am. We still, I know he probably looking left eye right now because we're still trying to work on it. But I think having someone who like, cause I'm good at following direction. So if he's like, we need to do da 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 da, I mean, I still have a temper tantrum around it, but it's a direction for me to focus on. But like Tyler, like I would have separate account when I was by myself. I'm like, I'm making the money. I have it. I know how to make it. I'm like, you tend to do reason giving. And that's the impulsive, like, because we have something on hand, we're going to be reactive. We're going to get it.
It's also that dopamine part, right?
Yes.
Like buying yourself something.
It's a high.
Especially now with like shopping, online shopping really kicked that shit into gear for me.
Yes.
Like before
the pandemic.
Like, okay, there's only so much of being in the mall or in the store that I can tolerate.
Exactly.
But once online shopping started happening, I'm like getting a package every week.
But also it's that dope. It's dope.
Yeah.
That's
it's like,
thing.
ooh.
You can't like, your brain at times is starved or at least set to the filter where it's also looking for that. And shopping is literally like ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Scrolling, ding, 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 eating, ding. Like all of these things that we tend to like overindulge in. Because that's the thing, it's an overindulgence.
Yeah.
You can look at it in any different way. Shopping, eating, having sex.
I was going to say, this kind of leads to our like the correlation between ADHD and addiction, right? Like how you can get very like fixated on things to the point where you're now addicted to this feeling of dopamine. And that can show up in process stuff like gambling, shopping,
sex,
internet.
Yes.
That can show up in physical stuff like sex, drugs, drinking, or just being addicted to like the party, right?
The dependency,
addicted to the high of like being around people. Turned up. Yes. Like being, yes. And so I think that oftentimes that's not really talked about.
Yeah.
Or there's more shame around it. So people aren't sharing that those are their experiences. And so those are sometimes some of the symptoms that kind of get overlooked.
Yeah.
Especially with addiction because there's so much like negative
stigma. Negative stigma that come with it. Yeah. And not understanding that a lot of times someone with an ADHD brain who become addicted to substances are literally trying to quiet their mind and manage and function. I remember when I realized like weed smoke like slowed my brain down. I'm like, oh fuck yeah. I want ganja all the time. You know, it went to the point where it was like stabilizing me in that point. Or even like alcohol will quiet my mind. I'm Caribbean. I come from a fucking family who's alcoholics anyway, whether they believe it or not. But it's that part of like, you know, understand that people are, with addiction, people are always trying to manage. And sometimes people are not addicted by choice. Sometimes it's a way of coping and managing and numbing.
I mean, any person that I've worked with around addiction was trying to cope with something.
Exactly. So I get annoyed. People don't understand. I get not necessarily triggered, but I'm like, you can't say, well, they have a choice. They can always make a choice. No.
Right.
Addiction is so strong and powerful that it's a dependency on something.
Yeah.
This gets me to function in a certain state and make me feel something. And when you attach yourself to these things, it's hard to detach yourself from it. Yes. And if you are someone with ADHD, where we talk about fixation and obsession and like impulsive, it's hard when something that helps you function. Yeah. Now you got to detach from it.
Or even being able to recognize like the harm that it is doing because it's giving so much relief in this other area.
Exactly.
And I think the lack of awareness also contributes, the lack of awareness that this busyness, this racing, this kind of like 20 car pileup that it feels like is happening in your brain and maybe even in your body is like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's so unbearable.
Yeah.
And it's so like debilitating.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I often see online when I watch folks who have the later diagnosis, especially women, there's this devastation and this despair and this like feeling of hope being rekindled.
Yeah.
That, like
Yeah.
they actually have the opportunity to move. Like
Yeah.
going back to
manageable,
the confession, like, yes, it the people saying that it's a gift, like, yeah, like it becomes a gift once you have been able to create some parameters and to embrace it and then learn to engage with it as something that pushes you in a particular direction.
Say that, right? Because we didn't really highlight this too much, but there are certainly symptoms that can be very beneficial.
Yeah.
One of them, like pattern recognition,
Yes.
helpful in some ways. Sometimes it can be a gift and a curse, but being able to kind of anticipate more things can be helpful.
Mastery.
Picking up on the vibe.
But
Building mastery.
Yeah.
To commit to your crafts and creativity, and just like the creativity component in general. Oftentimes people that I know personally that experience ADHD, or even some of my clients, are very creative people because they have the capacity to think outside of the expectation or the structured box. And so I think those things, there can be a lot of emphasis on like the ways that ADHD is harmful to you.
Yeah.
When really it's just an experience. And experiences come with things that work and things that don't work. And so managing ADHD is more so about like, how can I work with what's working for me? And how can I learn to tolerate the things that are not?
Yes.
But I also think once you get the diagnosis of ADHD, it's like you were given a map to an uncharted terrain.
Yep.
Because that's really what it was like, right? You were walking around with this high ass grass.
Yep.
You couldn't see in front of you. You couldn't see behind you. You keep getting stuck in this thing you can't figure out. And then all of a sudden somebody tells you, hey, you have ADHD. Now I have a map that gives me
The points are putting together.
Exactly. Now I'm like, oh, I'm in this part of it now.
Yeah.
I'm able to do this in order for me to get back to the brain.
Yeah.
That's really what the diagnosis provides you.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you a freedom from struggle.
Yes.
It just acknowledges
Or
what the
excuse.
struggle is. Potentially gives you a tool to kind of get around it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And so that's how I had to kind of like conceptualize it in my mind when I got to the point of like fully acknowledging and embracing that, yes, this is something that I experience, and also being open to taking, medication, because for the longest, from when I started doing therapy, I didn't want to take medication, but I also wasn't a big sponsor of people being medicated because I came from the time where I felt like people were being overly diagnosed,
medicated.
Yes.
and
Yes.
medicated to the point that we're experiencing that zombie-esque feeling. And so I was very much like, oh, hell no. Like there has to be other natural, holistic ways to do things. And mind you, the top treatment for ADHD is a combination of psychotherapy and skill work and coaching, in addition to psycho medication, because of the fact that it is a developmental thing that our brain works and doesn't work in a particular way. There's a reason why Adderall and Ritalin, they chose stimulants to help us, because we need to be able to fight off the fatigue aspect that shows up, that keeps us without being able to like get contact with parts of our brain. Like that's what makes it where we can't focus and there's an overhaul of stuff. So medication helps bring that equilibrium and open us to be able to like experience more things. So it took me a while to be able to be like, actually, like, I need this. This is helpful. And this is not an indication of my lacking.
Yeah.
Because that's something that was really like, oh, like this really confirms that there's something's wrong. These people have been right this whole time. Like I wasn't doing a good enough job of like masking or what's it called? Keeping up the facade that I was okay.
And even you saying the part about medication, I kind of laughed to myself because like my biggest challenge with taking medication is remembering to take it.
Yeah.
To create a bit of a...
Yeah. Same here. Well, yeah.
All right. Do we want to get into the listener letter?
Yes.
Cool. Let's do that. I just realized how wild an email I sent during a manic episode over a year ago really was. And honestly, it's super embarrassing. I came across a message from a former friend asking me not to contact him again. And I don't blame him at all. Apparently, I sent a jumbled email that included asking if I could date his daughter, who might have just been in college at the time, because I thought I was getting signs from God that she was my soulmate. It's cringy to even type that now, but at least I didn't act beyond that message. Has anyone else had to come to terms with the fallout from a manic episode after the fact? How do you move through the shame without spiraling? Okay.
Idea.
So yes, manic episodes. What diagnosis is that connected with?
Trauma and
A lot of different things. Like you could do bipolar.
Yes, it could be trauma, but for most part, manic episodes are usually connected to some level of bipolar diagnosis. But okay, so this person had a manic episode and sent an email to his friend asking to date his daughter.
Interesting. I think that I like that the reader was like accepting and accountable for their impact despite like being in a manic episode, right? Like they did not try to like excuse or skirt over their involvement and perhaps why the relationship didn't last. I think they even acknowledged like I probably wouldn't talk to me either if I showed up in that way. I think that part is really important for people to be able to tolerate the feelings that come after you've maybe engaged in a way that was like erratic, right? So like being able to accept that it makes sense that I have shameful feelings. The best way to get through our feelings is to experience them.
And to experience it, yeah.
So letting yourself
feel that
have
shame.
them without participating in the blaming. And because he was like, how do you experience shame without spiraling? Well, we know shame lets us know that we're doing something that might
it goes against morality,
from our community.
But it goes against morality and values and standards, right? And also, if you're dealing with someone who's bipolar, who's in a manic state, and there's deep like guilt and regret when you out of mania about actions and things that you've done. And part of that is also acknowledge that if I embrace the shame without having the urge to over apologize or do something about it, then more likely when I have episode, it is taking accountability, but also understanding like taking accountability is not equaling to, okay, I will be forgiven, I will excusing, this makes it okay. You know, people should understand and not really using your diagnosis as reason giving for your behavior. Exactly. Like as a behavior. So I would tell, honestly, when it comes to shame, I would say acknowledge and own shame so it doesn't own you. That's my motto. When shame start to own you, that's when you start to the unraveling that they're talking about. Because now the shame is controlling you because it goes into, like we always tell clients, like your core sense of inadequacy, failure, not enough, all of that kind of feeds into it. Because shame connects you to a deeper rooted emotion about who you are as a person and what does that say about me that I engage in these actions. So it is relinquishing shame by owning shame so it doesn't own you. And at the same time, acknowledging the fact that I made and behave in a way that I was not in my full conscious state to recognize that this is inappropriate or this is not okay. And now that I'm out of that state and acknowledge that this is inappropriate, this is not okay, I'm going to take ownership with it without reason giving or trying to make sense to others as to why, because that's the part like, that goes into a cycle.
That awareness piece being so important,
yes.
right? Like, and perhaps that is what treatment often looks like. Helping people, depending on the modality, right?
Yeah,
what that treatment can look like with helping people to recognize when they are maybe getting into that manic space, recognizing the particular behaviors, the feelings and things that show up so that you can learn to adapt and engage in more like rewarding or helpful behaviors versus things that are harmful, like making random romantic connections.
Yes.
I also think that there's room for relationship repair. Like the reality is that we're all carrying our own shit. And some of us are further along in our journey on management than others. So there can be a level of understanding if you have a relationship with someone who experiences bipolar or experiences mania. It's okay to find safe spaces to talk about that so that when things happen, one, you can, the people, your support system can help call it out. Like they can call out the safe word. When
That
I
part.
notice, like, you haven't slept in 3 days. And you're sending me these erratic emails. I can say to you, when we have that relationship, is everything okay? You're
right.
I'm noticing these things about you to help with that awareness, but also when the things happen, being able to go back and take accountability for
it. Yeah.
And talking more about like how we can avoid this happening in the future.
I think that requires
Agreed.
that the person who has the bipolar diagnosis tell their friends,
sharing,
and they tell their partner about like
disclosure. There's a sense of self-disclosure. Yeah.
You have to tell them like what to expect. What are some of the things that I might like be signs that you want to look out for, that this might be showing up, and also kind of normalize that during my manic phases, most folks aren't always as open to, or really available mentally to any feedback. So it's like, how do you contain and manage during a manic episode? Because most manic episodes maybe can be, if they're hypomanic, 1 to 2 days in that area. If they're manic, it can be 4 days to up to a week or a bit longer than that. So the phase will eventually run out, but it's like, what do we do in that moment to keep that person safe, to keep the situation under some level of control, to the point that when the switch does happen, there's less for that person to have to make amends for or take accountability
also
around.
Kind of like intensify that other side.
Exactly.
Right? Intensify that depression piece.
Yeah. Good to see you.
All right. Well, this was a great conversation.
It was.
Very personal too.
Very personal to all three of us. 4 of us, the recording.
All right.
But yes, thank you for joining us today for Couch Chronicles. If you have any questions or you want us to read any of your listener letters or confessionals, you can find us at couchchroniclestad@gmail.com. And we'll see
our IG handles.
Our IG handle, Couch Chronicles.
On Instagram.
Our YouTube, Couch Chronicles. So 1, 2, 3. Check us out on all platforms and we'll see you soon.
All right.
Subscribe.
Bye, fam.
Bye, guys.